So I'm in the deep south of America, in Florida. Doesn't always think it's deep south, but Florida is pretty far south. And in the beautiful evening sunshine by the coast here in Melbourne. And I've been wandering around the town, intrigued with this stuff that you see hanging in the trees that's often associated with the south. And it's very, very cool stuff, and it's called Spanish moss. And the Spanish moss is a remarkable plant, and it's a flowering plant. Some people think that it's a parasite because what it does is it hangs off the trees. Actually, it's not a parasite. It does float around, and the trouble with it is that it does hang off the oak trees. So in the hurricane season, it can lower the wind resistance of the tree and or raise the wind resistance of the tree, and the trees can be quite damaged because of the Spanish moss. But actually, it's home to a few creatures. One of which is a rat snake, which is perfectly harmless. It's like a corn snake, and quite good pets. There's a few spiders and bats and stuff live in this, and people have been using it for things like bedding, been stuffing mattresses with it down through the years, and also weaving it into clothes. Some of the Native American Indians have woven it into clothes. If it surrounds your house, it also keeps the temperature down, because if it gets cool, it creates shade. It's naturally full of fluid, as a plant generally is, and so therefore if it's around your house, it will generally lower the temperature. There have been some experiments done in relation to using it as a sort of an air conditioner to make less cost. But the reason I'm interested in is because a couple of things. Firstly, because when you see it on its individual strands, it's kind of pretty innocuous. It doesn't seem to have much strength. But as you guessed it, once you start to lock those strands together, those strands become fibrous. Those strands become inseparable. You can't pull on those strands and break them. And of course, the more you wrap them, as with any weave or weft, the stronger it becomes. But it's a natural thing. It's beautifully spiral bound. It hangs together incredibly well, creates a mesh, and you guessed it, it reminds me of fascia. It reminds me of this stuff, connective tissue. People talk about fascia or connective tissue not having any influence in biomechanics. But when this is your binding stuff, coiled and full of fluid, then you do wonder what they're talking about or what their thinking is of this. So this is Spanish moss. It's similar also that the seeds are airborne, so the seeds grow from this. It's actually a flower, believe it or not, and the seeds and the pieces of the plant will fly around and lodge themselves and then become stronger, and they'll take the nutrients from the fluid of the leaves and everything else. Oh, there's a squirrel just jumping around up in the top of that one. And so similar again, the fascia is coming from collagen. So collagen is a fibre which is far too big as a cell to be produced. So it's a fibroblast that produces tropocollagen. The marker for the collagen fibre is produced prior to that, and then of course, depending on where you put it, then depends on what the fascia or the collagen then becomes. So collagen, fascia, epimesis, perimesis, all the same stuff. I think the trouble that we have is something of a nomenclature. We label many different types of structure around the body as fascia, where probably we could actually get better names for them. And there's a lot of structures that aren't named, and a lot of structures that we'll see in the tissues that you might think are fascia-like but are not named as such and not mapped. We only really name the stuff that we get and that's important, and the rest of the stuff, well, we'll get around to one of these days. So anyway, that's Spanish moss. That's the story I'm telling. I quite like it. It's a successful plant, and it's pretty poorly thought of by a lot of people around here. You can see why that hangs in trees, and it grows fast. I mean, you'll clear this stuff off your tree, and it'll be back fairly quickly within a few days. See on here, it's even hanging off the fence. It's just blown so successfully. So Spanish moss in Florida.